I work for my local government in Nottingham in the UK in the sustainability department, and we've actually pledged to be the UK's first carbon neutral city. So we want to be carbon neutral by 2028, which is the most ambitious target at the moment. And so I thought it would be a good time to find inspiration elsewhere, gather exciting, innovative ideas that could help us shape our path ahead. We're actually, we don't have much money. We've been one of the councils very severely hit by austerity measures put in place since 2010. So thinking creatively is really important. So I applied for the Nottingham Roosevelt Memorial Travelling Scholarship, and that's been funding young professionals, so people in work in the voluntary, private or public sector, to go out into the US for up to 3 months. And it's been going since the end of the Second World War. And it gives you some money if you're successful to research a topic that will benefit the local area and you and your employer. So I proposed the idea of researching the sustainability stories of US cities with an emphasis on the role of the citizen to help us transition into the UK's first carbon neutral city. And luckily I got the money, so I came out in mid-September and I picked sort of 10 to 15 cities at the forefront of sustainable development based on my reading and just some contacts that I'd made earlier on. And so Chicago is one of them. So it's my fifth city. I went to DC first, and then I headed to Boston, New York, Detroit briefly, and then here. And in each city, I'm looking to get a really broad range of perspectives on sustainability stories. So it's not just government and government programs, although they're very important because that's kind of our counterpart. So it's getting their angle on it is kind of key, but also sort of the private sector as well. So big businesses, small businesses like zero waste shops and places like that. Also community groups and grassroots organisations, and whether there's synergy between what they're doing and how they see things going and how the government sees things, or whether there's tension there. And also, universities as well, kind of how they might be playing a role in innovative measures in the city.
What got you initially interested in the climate change issue?
Actually, I was 14 years old in a geography class, and we had a substitute teacher called Mr. Green. Couldn't make it up. And he showed us An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore. And I just remember seeing it, and my whole life changed, my view of the world. And I just knew that I had to dedicate my career and everything to trying to help that situation. But I don't know, I've never felt like pessimistic about it. I've never been like, there's this new kind of climate anxiety it seems to be spreading. Luckily, I've felt the opposite. Like, I feel the idea of finding solutions and working, pulling together and thinking creatively, and it's just always made me really excited and given me a purpose. I think the US, although there is, it's not your finest hour at like the federal level in terms of climate policy, kind of what I just said, that it seems that cities themselves are really driving it forward, driving the agenda forward. And so I just thought it would be a fantastic time, especially as we're just in the infancy of our planning for the next 8 years to get to carbon neutrality. I thought it would be a fantastic time to come out and share ideas, see what's going on from a different lens, different culture, different challenges, different climate. And I think there's just a lack of that in general. Often maybe there are just fantastic answers out there to whatever problem you have, but it's just the lack of communication that's the barrier. So just having the opportunity to go and talk to all these really passionate people in all these different places, such a wide variety of landscapes politically and sort of physically, it's just a dream. It's such a great opportunity for us to absorb and pull kind of a tapestry of ideas from different places, based on what might be able to be replicated. So in Evanston, they've got some really exciting, creative ways of engaging people. So they kind of recognise that just a big strategy wasn't going to cut it. That's kind of the traditional ways councils seem to operate. They create a huge document and pour loads of work into it, but then it just sits on a shelf and it doesn't really get through to the public. But Evanston have got all these kind of exciting materials and scenario-based things. So they're asking people to make decisions based on future situations brought about by climate change. So it's making them kind of face reality and then kind of empowering them to decide what to do next. So I thought that was brilliant. And then I also talked with, so more in the city of Chicago itself, the Illinois Green Alliance. And I think they were formerly a branch of the US Green Building Council, but now they're kind of separate. So they're aligned but not part of the organisation. And they're doing a lot of engagement work kind of on behalf of the city council or city government. And that they kind of gave the impression that there's a lot of great stuff going on, but the government is relying on those non-profits. So they're actually doing a few different campaigns, ambassador-based, so they're training people to train other people, like the climate reality stuff, which seems like a really interesting model, because then you get those people going out. So you get kind of spokespeople in the communities who are already trusted by the communities, rather than trying to start from scratch and build that trust, which can be really difficult. And they're also doing that specifically with Project Drawdown and trying to get that out to the public, which I thought was fascinating, because that's, I don't know, it just seems like a really bold move to take one publication, albeit very popular, and then almost like nationalise it, promote it as a state organisation. I thought that was really interesting. And Project Drawdown isn't something that's around in the UK. I'd not heard of it until I came here, but it's huge here. So I'm really excited to kind of bring some of those ideas home. Who else? I talked to the Sweetwater Foundation. That was stunning. I recommend anyone to go and visit. So it's in South Chicago, off the Garfield stop on the Red Line. So it's maybe traditionally quite a deprived, I don't know, we call it a deprived area, or an underserved community, but they're kind of regenerating themselves from the inside out, and their models are very sustainable, and I think they don't have much of a relationship with the city at the moment, with the city government, but nevertheless they're kind of gaining world recognition. They've been recognised by Harvard, and I think the founder, Emmanuel Pratt, just got a MacArthur Fellowship, which I hear is very impressive. So that was a completely different perspective on sustainability and how it's going. But I could go on for hours and hours about that. But I just really recommend having a look as a case study, and that's kind of inspiring other similar communities to take action as well.